I've been thinking about this sermon since the beginning of the year because this little study that we've been doing on Wednesday night, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, kind of made me wonder, why are there so many people in this world that choose to not believe in God? What's wrong with God? Why would they not choose God? Why would they not believe in Him? Can you not look around at the creation that we live in and realize there had to be a force that put all this into motion? And in this little study, we've realized that the creation reveals itself, reveals God through itself. And it's kind of been amazing, and some of it, the scientific things have kind of opened my eyes a little bit. But let's face it, folks, oftentimes we treat God like we think He's less than a perfect God. If we realized who He was and treated Him for who He was, there would be no sin. There would be the problems that we face in this world would just not exist, because we would recognize He is the perfect God. But what do? We look at God and we say, He's got rules and expectations that I can't live up to those, so why even try? I don't like all the rules and the expectations. I can't see Him. If I can't see Him, how do I know He's there? How can I tell other people about Him? I need a God I can see. He dampens my ideas of fun. He's got all these rules and regulations, and I look at the rules and regulations, and it's like, but I want to do things. Some of the things you say not to do are the things I think I'd have a lot of fun doing them. So why not? Why can't I do these? Another thing that we realize is wrong with God, that He doesn't always provide for me the way I want to be provided for. I think when I go to God in prayer and ask Him for something, that it just automatically appear. He's not there at my beck and call. We talk about the power of prayer, and then we go to God in prayer and we realize, okay, somewhere we realize He's not working on my time schedule. I want things done now. When I ask Him I want to see the results of my prayers. And it just doesn't happen that way. So what's wrong with God? And when it comes down to it, He just doesn't fit into the nice, neat little box that I have built for Him. Do we not do that with God? We build a box and expect Him to fit into it. We build a church building, and we come and we fit into this, and we expect God to fit into our church building. And when we walk out of the door, we figure, okay, God, this is God's house. This is where God lives. So next time I want to see God, I'll show up, and He can leave me alone until the next time I want to see Him. I think maybe we'll all agree that the problem is not with God. The problem is with us. It would be nice if sin, Satan, or circumstances could take all the blame. But when it comes right down to it, when all the excuses are examined for what they are, it comes down to me and to you, to the choices that we make. For a little bit of foundation, and okay, in your bulletin, Barry always has like a fill-in-the-blank thing, and all you've got are blank lines in there today. So if you want to take some notes and put the notes in your bulletin, write down the scriptures that we're going to use this morning. And you can go back sometime this week or next week or over the next 2 or 3 months and review these scriptures, because there's several of them that we're going to look at. Some of them we're just going to touch there briefly, but we're going to open the scriptures. In Genesis chapter 1, beginning in verse 26, and I'm going to read these verses to you. I'm going to read them out of the New American Standard Version, and if you're looking in the Bible in the pew, it's the New International Version. So there's going to be some differences in the words, but it all says about the same thing. We get to the same place. Beginning in verse 26 of Genesis 1, then God said, let us, interesting, he uses the word us, and there's only God to begin with, but God is us, not us. God is just, there's more to God than just, he keeps himself company. How do you do that? He's God. Okay. Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over the cattle, over all the earth, over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. And God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. Then God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the surface of all the earth, and every tree which has fruit yielding seed. It shall be food for you. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the sky, and to everything that moves on the earth which has life, I have given every green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. The point that I want to make from this passage of Scripture is the fact that God made us. We didn't make him. He is who he is. He is the great I am. He is. We're part of the creation. We're part of what he did. He created us. And for years I wondered, okay, you go back into, okay, let's go back to Exodus chapter 20. God gives us the Ten Commandments, and the first one he says, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Oh, we're getting ahead of ourselves here anyways. But before we talk about that one, let's just go here. I read recently a quote that kind of resonates with me. The author said, everyone does the best they can with what's in their heart. So when we think about this concept of what's wrong with God, and why do I act the way that I do? Why is the world the way that it is? Everyone does the best they can with what's in their heart. And I read that, and I was like, I got to take issue with this. And then I started to think about it. And it's so true. Everyone does the best they can with what's in their heart. The problem is what's in their heart. The problem here, the issue, is the heart. It's a heart issue. We have a heart disease, and it doesn't come from high cholesterol or a sedentary lifestyle. One fellow diagnosed it, he called it an affluenza virus. It's contagious and it can steal your soul. Its main symptoms is the need for more. We see that in people's lives. And when he talked about this, he used an acronym. He used the word PALMS, like a palm tree. Palms. P is for possessions. Need more possessions in my life. I need more stuff. I look around the house and I think, I don't need any more stuff. I got no room for more stuff. Stuff is taking over me. There's stuff everywhere. What do I do with this stuff? Every once in a while we'll make a trip to the landfill. take some stuff to the landfill and get rid of it. But there's always more stuff. And it seems to be more stuff comes, the more stuff goes out, more stuff comes in. Can't simplify life. There's just stuff, possessions. The A stands for achievements, our accomplishments in life. Some people focus their life on what they can achieve, how far they can get, climb up the social ladder or climb up the business ladder. What can I achieve? What can, I can set these goals and I can achieve my goals. For some people, it's looks. We're down to the L. Their focus is on their looks, their appearance. It's how they wear, what they look like. They've got. I had a cousin. She passed. Patty passed a long time ago. But she was one of these people that was really focused on her look. She had what did they say, 6 facelifts or facial surgeries to keep her looking good. And they said when she laid there in the casket, she sure looked good. What does that do for you? She was focused on her looks. She's not the only one. You look around. Sometimes, and it's not bad to want to look good. The bad thing is to have to focus on that, to be obsessed with these things. M, what do you think M would stand for? Money. Money. How many people focus on money? There's just never enough to go around. If you went out and bought the lottery ticket last night, if you happened to win that lottery, what was it, $100 million that you could win in the lottery? Would it be enough? How many people have gotten the big lotteries and they end up bankrupt? And not just bankrupt financially, morally, they've lost everything in their lives. Or status. There's a status symbol of I have stuff, I have achieved, I've gotten success. This is my status. Now, the issue is there's nothing inherently wrong with any of these things. There's nothing wrong with having stuff. There's nothing wrong with achieving. There's nothing wrong with looking good or having some money or even having a certain status in life. The issue comes with where our heart is and what we focus on. When you take these things in exchange for your soul, you eventually realize how unfulfilling and how unfulfilling these things are and how lost you are. So if we have a heart problem, you know, if our ticker doesn't work right, we want to go to the doctor and find out what's wrong. Sometimes he'll give you a pill and fix it. Sometimes it's going to require major surgery. Sometimes he cuts it open, pulls it out, holds it in these hot little hands, and slices off this and this tube and this tube and this tube. And the next thing you know, you've got a quadruple bypass. He sticks it back in and it works. But you've had to go through some major heart surgery to get it to work again. And will it ever work right? I don't know. My dad had this quadruple bypass surgery years ago, and he lived a whole bunch of years after that. And his ticker never bothered him again until it gave out there at the end. But, you know, you get to be 88, almost 89 years old, and you got to realize your days are numbered at some point. How do you know that you have a heart problem? Turn with me, if you would. This one's later. Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 to 21. We're in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus is talking to a multitude of people. And in the middle here he says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures upon the earth, where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal. That's pretty much everything you can work for. Moth and rust. Moth is going to destroy your clothing. Rust is going to destroy your vehicle or your axe or whatever metal pieces you have. Wind and rain just going to destroy your house. Everything that you can work for is eventually going to be destroyed. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures upon the earth where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroy, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So, if you want to diagnose what the heart issue is, you have to look at where your treasure is. Your treasure is where your heart is. What's in your heart? Now we're going to go back to Exodus chapter 20. In what we call the Ten Commandments, the 10 words, God carved them in stone and handed it to Moses and said, take this down to the people. These are the guidelines for them to follow for living the way I want them to live. And he starts off with, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And he ends up with number 10, thou shalt not covet. And everything in between, they're all heart issues. And every one of them, he starts off, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And every other thing that he puts in here could conceivably become a god. And while Moses is up on the Mount Sinai, waiting for God to take his finger and write in the stone, on these stone tablets, the people are down with Aaron. He says, Moses has been up there a long time. He must be dead by now. We haven't seen him. We don't know what's going on. We need a God that we can see. Aaron, make us a God. And so Aaron says, pull the rings out of your ears, the gold rings out of your ears. Give me the gold ring. Give me your gold, and we'll see what we can do. So he threw the gold in the fire, and out jumps this golden calf. No, that's what he told his brother when Moses came down off the hill. Aaron took the gold and fashioned it into a golden calf. It kind of represented a god that the people around them, the Canaanites, would be worshiping when they got there. So they'd be familiar with this thing. A golden calf. We can see our God now. Well, if you covet something, you have made that which you covet become your God. Whether you covet money or prestige or power, these things can become your God. And when it comes down to it, we have to be careful because we can even put ourselves in that position of replacing God. Jesus confirms several times in the Gospels. Sometimes he's saying the words, and sometimes it's being said to him. What's the great commandment of God? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Sometimes it's the different orders. Sometimes the strength thing is left out, and it's just heart, mind, and soul. But this is how you're supposed to love God, with everything, with your entire being. Scientifically, for us, the heart is the organ that pumps blood. Long as the heart pumps, how long as the heart works, you live. Heart stops, you die. Just that simple. Spiritually, though, this heart thing, the heart is a personality. It is the core of your being. It is who you are. This is who you take with you when you leave this earth. Your body is a shell that houses your heart. Your heart, okay, from one perspective, it's spirit, it's mind, it's this whole the inner core of you. You are an eternal being. Jesus told in his teachings, he came across the Pharisees and was trying to illustrate to his disciples that the Pharisees had a heart problem. Over in Matthew chapter 15, verses 15 to 20, Jesus had a little run-in with the Pharisees. They came up to him and said, "Your disciples didn't wash their hands before they eat. They're bad boys. They need to go." Didn't their parents teach them any better? Before you eat, you're supposed to wash your hands? Well, they had a little more than just, more of a ritual than just go to the bathroom and wash your hands. They had to put them under water and hold them up and let them air dry a little bit, and that water would drip off their elbows, and there was a process that had to be done. It's kind of like in the food service industry. The health department's going to come around and say, and give you some guidelines as to how to wash your hands. You wet them, you put soap on them, you rub that in for 20 seconds, and then when you're done, then you rinse it off, and you're supposed to be able to sing happy birthday twice, and then your hands are considered clean. There's a ritual, there's a process. Your disciples didn't wash their hands. So when the Pharisees had left and it was just Jesus and his disciples, down in verse 15, Peter answered and said to him, "Explain the parable to us." Jesus had talked to the Pharisees about their issue. And he said, "Are you still lacking in understanding also? Do you not understand that everything that goes into the mouth passes into the stomach and is eliminated? But the things that proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and those defile the man. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, slanders. These are the things which defile the man, but to eat with unwashed hands does not defile the man." Now you might get physically sick from not washing your hands, and you might pass on some disease from not washing your hands, but you're not defiled. It doesn't make you unclean before God. Pharisees were concerned about the disciples conforming to their traditions. Now, if there's an issue with the heart, and you've identified that you have a heart issue, and all of us at times have an issue with the heart, what are you going to do about it? Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Okay, I understand that. So what if my treasure isn't in heaven? What if I've not paid a lot of attention to that? And I've built up, I've got a good bank account, and I've got a house with stuff, and I've got things, drive a nice car, and all these things, and all of a sudden I realize that's my treasure. I don't have much laid up in heaven. Paul gives us a wonderful prescription in Romans chapter 12. First 2 verses, really simple. Paul says, "I urge you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living and holy sacrifice, acceptable to God, which is your spiritual," the King James Version says, "reasonable service of worship." Verse 2, he says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect." This whole idea of the Phariseeism was a religion of conformity. We've got the rules, we've got the guidelines. All you've got to do is go through the motions. You go through the motions, and we guarantee you're going to be right with God. God never said that. That was never God's plan, for you just to go through the motions. The plan was, give your heart to God. Let Him be in control of your life. Put Him in your heart, and then you'll be right with God. But Paul's prescription is, you need to be transformed by renewing your mind. This word transformed is an interesting word because in the Greek it's a metamorpho word. It comes out metamorpho, which is the word that we get metamorphosis from. The little butterfly that comes out and the little larva thing, and he turns into the caterpillar, and he eats and eats and eats until he can't eat anymore, and then he finds a place to hang, and he develops this cocoon thing. Next thing you know, he comes out, and this little caterpillar that you want to just squish because he's a nasty looking thing that's eating your leaves. Next thing he comes out, and he's a butterfly with beautiful wings. Paul says, I want you to become like the butterfly. A total transformation. You're not going to look like what you looked like before. You're not going to be the person you were before because you've transformed your mind by renewing your mind. Transformed by renewing your mind. How do you renew your mind? Well, what do you feed your mind? You know, if you want to transform your body, diet and exercise is the plan. You talk to the doctor, read up medically on it. Now, you can get a shot that'll help you along the way maybe, but the bottom line is you've got to eat less and do more. You got to feed yourself nutritiously and exercise religiously. A lot of physical problems can be avoided with diet and exercise. What do you feed your mind? You ever think about what you feed your mind? You get in the car and the radio's on. You go in the house and the radio's on, the television's on, the computer's on. All sorts of different things feeding your mind. Your mind is constantly being fed something. Is it being fed something nutritious, or is it being fed fattening, non-nutritious stuff? Stuff with lots of dyes in it that are meaningless, and stuff that's just going to explode your senses and destroy your brain. Maybe we need to spend a little more time in the Word of God. Maybe we need to spend a little more time with our relationship to God. Maybe we need to spend a little more time focusing on prayer and focusing on who God is. Paul gives us some examples here at the end of the chapter as to different things we can do that will show us that we've had some results in the mind renewal process. But we need to, if we want to see if we're on the right track, examine your checkbook. Not see what your balance is. Where do you spend your money? Examine your schedule. Not to see if you got more time to do something. See how you've been spending your time. Examine your sense of ownership. Who owns your stuff? Is it you, or is it God who created it? Your thoughts. Where do your thoughts go? Does your family come first? Work, sports? Maybe your butt comes first. We've got a couple of chairs to sit in and say, do you like this chair better? Do you like this chair better? I like this chair better. We're concerned about where we sit and the comfort of it. And somewhere along the way, maybe the focus should not be on our butt, but on our heart. There's only 18 inches difference maybe? But the heart's where we need to be focused. You have a choice as to who sits on the throne of your heart. Jesus said in Romans, and I got one more scripture to read after this one. We're going to wrap this up here pretty quick, though. In Luke chapter 9, beginning in verse 23 down to 25, he was saying to them, if anyone wishes to come after me, not after as in down the road after, but to follow me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life shall lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake, he is the one who will save it. For what is a man profited if he gains the whole world and forfeits or loses or forfeits himself? We've come because we want to be a disciple of Jesus. Discipleship requires putting ourselves aside, putting Jesus on the throne of our heart. He who sits on the throne of your heart is the king of your life. In other words, he's your God. Who sits on the throne of your heart? You get to choose. I'd like for the worship team to come join me up here, and I got one more verse of scripture I'd like to share. David had a heart issue. He kind of let things slide for a while. Next thing you know, he's in bed with the neighbor's wife. And we know how that ends up with David and Bathsheba. Nathan is sent by God to confront David. And David realizes not just that I've been caught, I've sinned. Psalm 51, he addresses the nature of his sin. But down in verse 10 of Psalm 51, David writes these words. He says, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a steadfast," the King James Version calls it a right, renew a right spirit within me. You get to choose, but God's the one who can make it clean. God's the one who can give you the heart that you need.